Okay, so today we're going to learn how to make a lap blanket, and it's not going to be a very big blanket, but it will be big enough to cover your legs while you're sitting, enjoying the fall weather, while you're on the couch, maybe sitting outside at a baseball game or a football game or some type of sport event. So we are going to start with this chunky yarn, and this one is about 8 ounces of yarn. It's called the super chunky yarn, and there's about 8 ounces in this skein of yarn or in the ball of yarn. And so we're going to take one end and we're going to start off by looping it, making a loop like that. So this little end, the small end, is at the front, and that just kind of comes over, so it just kind of loops around like this. And then you're gonna hold it right here where you've made the loop, and you can leave a little bit more of a tail. These are called the tails. You can leave a little bit more of a tail. We can hide that later. So you cross it like this. You want to hold where these are crossing, and you're gonna flip. So now the yarn that's attached to my ball is in on top, and this little tail is on the bottom. You're gonna bring the yarn in, and you're gonna tighten by pulling this little tail. And so now you have this loop, and that's called a chain. And so now you're gonna take this loop that you have there, you're gonna put 2 fingers through it, and you're just gonna continue to bring some yarn out, and that's another chain. You just bring your 2 fingers in, bring some yarn out. So you see how I'm just pulling that yarn through, just weaving it through. And those are called chain. And depending on how wide you want your blanket, that's how many chains you want. So we're just going to continue bringing our fingers through, pulling out, making another chain. And what you don't want to do, if you see, I'm trying to keep my work flat so that I'm not turning this over and then having it twist. So I'm trying to keep it flat with my palm kind of holding it down. And then I bring my 2 fingers and bring that next yarn in. Bring my 2 fingers, bring that yarn in. So I'm trying to keep it flat, like I'm not trying to twist this or the chain. And so we're gonna continue doing that until we get a chain of about 16. 14 to 16 would be a good chain. So now we have our chain, our long chain. I made my chain with 16 stitches. And just keep in mind that if you're a beginner, sometimes your chain, your stitches, your chain might be a little bit looser. Each stitch might be a little bit looser. I tend to knit a little bit closer together just because I've been knitting and crocheting for a long time. And so mine tend to be a little bit smaller. So I put 16 in my chain, and that's how wide it's gonna be. And for me, that's okay. 16 is okay. You might wanna do 14 or 12, and then don't ever be afraid to have to unravel your work and start again. That's part of the learning process and the practice. And so now I have this chain with 16 stitches in it. And so if you can see, here is the stitch, and then there's these like little back loops to the chain. So this is actually the back of our work. So now we want to flip it over, and do you see that difference? Now we're not seeing those like loops. We want to work in the front part of our work. And so you want to go ahead and turn your whole chain over so you're looking at the front part of the work. And now we see these beautiful chains right here. So this is the first row. We want to start working up into the second row, and you want to remember how many stitches you started off with. So remember, mine is 16. And you want to remember that because in each row, you want to make sure you end up with 16 stitches again. So to start the second row, you're going to start with one extra loop. So you do one more chain, pull it up, and that becomes the first stitch in your second row. And now you want to bring your yarn kind of this way. And so now you want to find your second stitch. And with this chunky yarn, sometimes they get lost. So you want to find that second hole. And you're going to go always from underneath up, and you're going to bring your yarn underneath. And you have 2 bunny ears now. And so you're going to want to go all the way across. In the next stitch, you see the next stitch coming through, it almost looks like a V right here, this and this. And so you're going to come in through your next stitch, and you're going to bring that up. And I'm holding all this down because I don't want to pull on it and then lose my bunny ears. And so you pull the next one up. And so you see here's the next V. So you find that little hole, you hold all this down, you grab the yarn from underneath, and you bring it up. And you have more bunny ears. And we have 2 bunnies now. And you want to continue all the way through, bringing the yarn from underneath, always holding your work on both sides, because I don't want this chain to flip on me. And it just did. So let me go back and make sure that my work isn't flipping on me. And so you want to come through, bring that yarn through, and bring another bunny ear. And you want to continue unraveling your yarn from your skein or from your ball of yarn so that you have enough to work with. And then again, you bring that yarn through. So you're going to end up with, you should end up with 16 bunny ears. You just keep bringing it through. And so this is the bottom of the stitch. That's not actually a hole that you're going through. You're going through the hole that has the V coming this way. And there's lots of tutorials on YouTube. You can look up chunky blanket or finger knitting, chunky yarn, and look at other tutorials from other people. And sometimes the way somebody else explains it is a little bit more helpful. So feel free to search around and look for, again, not that bottom one, this top one. And so I'm just going to go all the way through till I get to the end. Okay, so now I've gotten to the end of my work. And this is I would say that this first row, I mean, our first row was our chain row. And then the second row is probably the hardest one to make because you're trying not to miss any of those loops that you made. And then what happens if you did miss it? And then in the second row, you end up, instead of having 16, you end up having 15. You can unravel it, start over. But if that keeps happening, you can just count 15 as your stitches that you're going to have. Because this first row, again, is the hardest one to kind of just not miss. And so you want to make sure you have, for me, 16 bunny loops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 bunny ears. And so now we just came this way on our row, from left to right, and now we're going to go from right to left. And so I like to unravel my yarn so that I'm having enough yarn to work with. You kind of, as you can see, they're somewhat even, my bunny ears, right? Somewhat even. I mean, again, this chunky yarn, even some of mine come a little bit lower than the other. It's okay. But for the most part, you want them about the same. So now you're just going to continue doing the same thing, bringing the yarn from underneath and up and creating another bunny ear. So now we're on our third row. And sometimes it's easier to have now the yarn, the ball of yarn on the other side, on your left hand side that you're working towards. And so now I just created another one. So again, you want to take that bunny ear and come up. And for these chunky blankets, it's actually good to work on a flat surface like I'm doing on a table, because you're not losing these bunny ears and you can see them, right? So try not to miss a bunny ear. So there's 2. You're going to come from underneath and bring another bunny ear up. 3. And then you're just going to continue doing that. And pretty much that's all you're going to be doing. You're going to continue working your way all the way to the end. And when you get to the end, you're just gonna bring it back. So you're just gonna go back and forth, back and forth. Each row you're adding more bunny ears. So from underneath up, and you bring in a loop. From underneath up, you bring in a loop. Underneath up. Underneath up. So again, we're just continuing all the way through till we get to the end. And here we are at the end. And so again, we just want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And you can count as you're doing it just to make sure you're not losing a bunny ear. And so I'm just going to keep going till I get pretty much to the end, and then I'll come back and show you how to add more yarn. And so now we're starting to see our work come together. And you see how you can see each stitch from each row. You're seeing the stitches form. So now we're seeing our work come together. I mean, because this is chunky yarn, it's gonna have some pull. That's why you don't need to do that many stitches if you want it for a lap blanket, because it's gonna have a little bit of some pull and some space in it. That's very normal. See, even mine, if I were to lift it, you kind of see those big spaces and gaps in it. That's normal with this chunky yarn, and because we're finger crocheting or finger knitting, sorry. And so yes, when it's here on the flat surface on the table, it's gonna look like this. But again, depending on the size of your stitch, or if you're new to stitching, it might look a little bit more like this. You see how spaced out these look? My daughter made this, and it was her first one that she made, and so it's a little bit more spaced out, her stitch. And even when we try to do other work together, my stitch will always be tighter than hers. So everybody's stitch is a little bit different. My mom's stitch is also different than my stitch. So when we try to work on the same piece of work, you can sometimes see the difference between our stitches. And so again, you're gonna keep going. You're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, making sure you're counting, and you don't have to count each row, but every now and then you want to count your bunny ears and make sure you have the same number that you started with stitches. And if not, again, just unravel and then try to find your mistake and then keep going. So you are gonna get in your kit 2 yarns, 2 balls of yarn, or 2 skeins they're called. And so now you want to learn how to bring those skeins together. So I will show you that next. And enjoy the process of making this. Enjoy the process of having to unravel and redo it. Take it as a time for relaxation and almost a type of meditation. You're focused on your work, just as in other types of meditation, just like yoga, you kind of just allow your mind to be blank. Let go of everything for a moment. Let go of the chores, let go of whatever is bothering you, the stresses, the worries, and try to take a moment to relax and focus on yourself and on some time. And in the end, you're going to have a beautiful project. So let me continue with showing you how to bring 2 skeins of yarn together. So there's a couple ways you could bring your 2 skeins of yarn together. As you can see here, I just cut it so that you can see I don't have 2 skeins, but I cut mine so that you could see how I bring it together. There's a couple of ways. You want to try not to have it be at the end of your work, because we can lose that end at the end of our work and it might be a little bit harder. So one way you can bring them together is, and hopefully it's a little bit in on your work. And one of the ways that we could bring it together is we could just simply tie a knot. We could just bring these 2 ends and tie a knot and then continue our work there. Now, is it going to be a little lumpy where the knot is? Yeah, it might be a little lumpy, and that's okay. Another way that you can do it is by kind of joining these 2 ends together like this, and then you're almost taking both of them at the same time. And so now you have, and is this going to make it a little bit chunky in that space too? Yes, it is. But I brought, see, so I have 2 bunny ears in one because I brought both of these together. And here they are again, my 2 ends, my 2 yarns. And I'm bringing both of them in. Until I have just this little piece left. And so now I just take my working yarn. The working yarn is called the one that you're currently working on, that's on the skein. And so this little end we can just hide away in these little V's. We can just kind of twist it into our V's. And they actually sell some yarn glue that you can attach there. And then just don't forget that when you go back, and I didn't hide it very well, I came back. So it wasn't long enough for that. So you kind of want to just twist in. So I pull it in from one end and then from the other. And so you just want to be mindful that when you come back on the next row, that you're grabbing both these. So see here, I have the 2 bunny ears I came through because I had to join those 2 yarns, and so both yarns are here. And so there's 2 bunny ears in the one. So make sure that you're looping both of them. And so you're just going to continue to, okay, so I just did that one. And then if you can't, I was just looking to see where I was in my work. You see how this one, it's free. It doesn't have that yarn that working yarn through it, and this is the one that has the working yarn through it, because I can see my yarn back here. And so I am continuing on with this stitch. And then I'm just going to work all the way to the end, but I will also be showing you how you can finish off. You could sit around with your girlfriends, with your boyfriends, with your children, family, whoever you want to sit around with, and do this work and have some laughs and chat. That would also, so you could either do this on your own, you could do it with family, friends, your circle, and just enjoy the time together. Okay, so now that you have your extra long bunny ears, so your working yarn is coming out of this loop. You want to leave this loop with your working yarn, and you want to actually this time start at the end, at the opposite end. So I don't have any yarn coming out of this. My working yarn is on the other side. And so now I'm just going to take a bunny ear and I'm going to eat the other bunny ear and loop it through. And so I'm going to grab the next bunny ear with this one, and I'm just kind of dropping that bunny ear inside of, inside of the other one. Almost like we're playing those hoops when you throw those hoop rings. We're throwing the hoop ring, the hoop bunny ear, and pulling the other bunny ear through it. And so we're just grabbing the next bunny ear, dropping it down, next bunny ear, dropping it down, next bunny ear, dropping it down. And so you see, you're closing your work. You're leaving a nice edge at the end. And you're taking the next one, dropping it down. And so the one before becomes your, the next stitch, it becomes your stitch that you're going to grab with. So see, I just loop them together, loop together. So you're kind of eating one bunny ear with the previous bunny ear. Okay, and so now we've gotten to the end where our yarn was, and we want to, if we need to, we can cut. And now you just want to, with the last bunny ear, you want to bring your working yarn through, all the way through, because now I just have a little end. And if you wanted to really secure it, you can make another bunny ear from underneath and bring the yarn through it to kind of knot it, make a little knot, and then tighten it. And there you go, you have your edge. Your work is all done. And then this tail, again, this tail you can just hide, and all your tails that you have, you can just hide by working them into your work. And that just means, you know, I'm just, where I see these kind of like loops, I'm just bringing my tail and I'm just weaving it through, weaving it through. And you can cut off any excess. I believe I mentioned before, but they sell this yarn glue that you can just at the end, wherever your tail ends up, this was my little tail to begin with. Wherever your tail ends up, you can just add a little bit of that yarn glue, and then that tail's not gonna unravel or come out. Like it just did. Yeah, or you can just make a little knot at the end, and then that'll hide your tail. And there you go. You have yourself a nice fall lap blanket. I hope you enjoy. You can reach out to me if you have questions, if you see me walking around at the conference, at the summit. You can come up to me, ask me questions. And if you're watching this after you've left the summit, then go ahead and reach out to me through my socials. My socials are Ishtik, which is IHTIC, Ishtik. You'll also see it on the cards. I hope you enjoy.